I think you're right, Charlotte. I missed it because it asked me a little dialogue box and I didn't answer it. So I hope I'm recording now. Oh, well. The sixth consciousness is the duality consciousness, this and that. Okay? Does the sixth consciousness, this and that, disappear in enlightened awareness? The answer is yes or no. I've heard much teaching on this, and and you can even experience this in meditation. Yes and no. Oh. Yes, somebody's writing to me in chat. It should be recording now, and I hope I recorded the whole thing. Hope so. So anyway, that is the duality consciousness. Then the seventh consciousness is the one that causes all the trouble. That's discursive. That is where suddenly the awareness of past and present show up. The I as opposed to the world, in other words, the ego identity starts up. You can feel like you're there. The next step is, gee, I wonder what it's like to be there. Gee, I don't feel so good. That's the afflicted consciousness, the storytelling consciousness. And the seventh consciousness quickly is called, that was the seventh with the afflicted consciousness. 8 is alaya consciousness. What that is the storehouse of memory. The chitta, as my guru used to say. That's it in Hindu. It's the part of us that stores all of the various, I call them seed, the seeds for everything that shows up. For example, my mind instantly identifies this as a cup. The next thing it tells me that this is my cup, and there's a history to it. How does that happen? It's dredged out of this very complicated web of memory. The scientists are very interested in memory. They know that if they stimulate parts of the brain, you will suddenly see a vivid three-quart like television screen. You'll see a memory from your past. There are other scientists, which are very interesting, exploring that memory seems to predate somehow the brain, and that somehow memories maybe are not stored quite in the brain. All right, I could go on and on about that, but I'm not. Let's just say the alaya consciousness is how all of this stuff shows up. How come I don't believe I'm a cat? And I don't have cat's perceptions because I don't have the same alaya seed consciousness as the cat does. Okay? The question arises, and I'm spending too much time on alaya. Is the alaya consciousness personal or is it collective? I have asked that of many teachers. The answer is that it's collective and it expresses itself as individual beings. How can that be? I guess an analogy which is being told to me in my brain right now of Madhava is, it's like the old analogy of the ocean and the waves. When a wave passes through an ocean, it picks up the water that's there, turns it into a wave form, and when the wave passes, the water goes back. The water itself does not follow the wave. Do you understand? The wave itself, I like the cat there, Randy. The wave itself is immaterial. It's an energy flow. It's a causal relationship. It's a very good analogy with supposedly how this being shows up. I'm like a wave. I'm processing food. I'm processing oxygen. It's passing in and out of my physical form. My thoughts are arising out of alaya, dissipating into alaya. Alaya is in some degree collective. The karma, I share a certain amount of karma with my cat. We're both mammals. We both experience ourselves as individual beings, and yet somehow we have personal expressions of this. Okay? More to say about that. If all this is background, we've discussed the 3 kayas. Make sure I've got everything here. Is a background to this wonderful prayer itself, which is what I wanted to go in today for about the last hour or so. I'm going to read the prayer. And I told you guys last time that I tend to memorize this prayer, and I often add a little bit to it. I don't distort it, but I add a little pronoun or something here. And I'm going to read it that way. And I think it will make it more vivid for you. If you guys got it, follow along with me. Whatever is seen through these eyes, the outer universe, and the living beings within, however they seem, remain in a state of non-grasping to them as real. In such freedom from duality, all things are seen as divine form, luminous and yet empty. Invoke the Guru naturally, free of desire and attachment. I invoke Orgame Pigme Jumne, another name for Guru Rinpoche. Whatever sounds are heard through the ears, be they pleasant or annoying, hear them as sounds of emptiness. Remain in that state without judgment. Empty sounds of the Buddha's speech. It's beginningless and endless. I invoke the Buddha's speech of sound and emptiness. I invoke Orgame Pigme Jumne. Whatever thoughts stir within the mind, whichever emotion-laden thoughts of the 5 poisons arise, do not alter the mind by retracing the past or anticipating the future. When these thoughts settle naturally into themselves, liberation into the body of ultimate truth is obtained. I invoke the Guru of intrinsically liberated awareness. I invoke Orgame Pigme Jumne. May grasping to what seems outer, the world, be purified. And may fixation on what seems inner, the mind, be liberated. And may what lies in between, the clear light, be self-aware. Buddhas of the 3 times, through your compassion, may the minds of all beings like me be freed. This is a meditation manual, a very advanced meditation manual. And what's advanced meditation? Advanced meditation is where you sit down with a clear intention that, may I liberate all sentient beings from their sufferings, the great Bodhisattva's vow. How do you do that? By the highest goal. What's the highest goal? To be liberated, to experience Buddha mind, to become, not become, but be what I actually am. Liberated awareness. This here is basically one long Bodhisattva's vow. May Buddhas of the 3 times, through your great compassion, may the minds of all beings like me be freed. Freed from what? From the 3 afflictions, which have pursued us. Our lives are. We are manifesting over and over and over and over and over again in these various lives because of the 3 afflictions. Okay? So, it's a tremendous aspiration prayer. It is a tremendous Bodhisattva's vow. It's the desire to be free. Okay? Very beautiful. So, and it's a practice. How to practice meditation. I'm going to give you guys something. If you don't know it now, hear it from me. It's not me. I don't try to give you any of my opinions. I just give you things which I've heard from others and then I've directly experienced. None of this is just my opinions. Okay? So I've heard many people say that you get good at shamatha meditation. Do you guys know what shamatha meditation is? Nod yes or no. Okay, calm abiding meditation. Okay, John, it's a fancy term for, frankly, it's a big discussion, John, but Guru Raj taught us, that's my guru, like this first shamatha-based meditation, but he actually told once, he said, when you start asking the question, who am I? He said, then the real meditation begins. Until that, it's all preparation. More on that for you guys later. For right here, shamatha meditation, which is calm abiding meditation. 3 stages. First is whenever you sit down to meditate for the first time, they teach you how to concentrate. Very important. Without concentration, forget it. And you start following your breath and you count a mantra, which is what our group did, or something like that, just to keep the wandering mind more or less in control. Great. It's going to make you happier. It's great. It is never going to lead to liberation. Second stage meditation is calm abiding meditation. You learn to, when the thoughts come up, don't ride the gravy train out and follow those thoughts into your story mind. You have such Powerful, powerful conditioning. To do that, it's almost impossible to get yourself off of that addiction. Nevertheless, every time you ride on the gravy train, bring the thoughts back and calm down. When you get excited, when you get frustrated, let the emotions drift. Look at them, okay? This is calm abiding. Calm down. Center yourself. That will never lead you to liberation. This is Vajrayana. This is Vipassana meditation. First of all, the shamatha meditation. Vipassana meditation is where you step up into the higher levels of what and who you really are. That's what this is. So this is meant to be practiced both in your formal meditation practices and as much as you can in everyday life. Here's the first paragraph. Whatever is seen through these eyes, not only through the sense of sight, but whatever you perceive through the sense of sight, the outer universe and all the living beings within it, however they seem, remain in a state of non-grasping after them as real. You guys might have heard or read that you can feel it in meditation. There's something with us which, like, first, there's a kind of meditation practice. One is called sky gazing. Another one's where is diffused attention. Do you guys know about that meditation technique of diffused attention? Instead of like fastening, oh, the cup, you sort of let your eyes slightly, don't unfocus, but you stop staring at things. What you notice is that you stop grasping. It's almost like when we want things, when we're thinking, it's like, where's my car? I got to get this. Where's my coffee? Where's the cat? And you're constantly taking your eyes to grasp after objects of awareness, objects of experience. I don't know where that is. It's almost like somehow you're constantly grasping, literally fixating on things outside of yourself, okay? Not only that, you also, they talk about the outer universe and the living beings within. Let's just keep it that, because you also stare at things inside of yourself. Now, what am I supposed to do next? And your mind will quickly flick through many pictures and scenarios and trying to grasp onto things. Does that make sense to you guys? It's like we own stuff we look at, and we're obsessed with it. And you guys know the two forms of the way we try to grasp after things is we like it or we don't. We always are like at stuff, naming it, owning it, dealing with it, okay? The outer universe and the living beings within it, especially those living beings, okay? However they seem, remain in a state of non-grasping after them as real. In such freedom from duality, all things are seen as divine form, luminous and yet empty. So that second part there, luminous and yet empty, is a reference to how things look in enlightened awareness. Luminous and yet empty, I'll say something. Let me go back to the first part. Not grasping after them as real. What on earth are they talking about? You know that original Buddhism, the Theravadan Buddhism, they accepted the idea that there really is an external universe. Have you guys all heard the Mahayana idea of the two truths, the relative truth and the absolute truth? It's like central to the Mahayana. Everything is the Dharmakaya. Everything is energy. Everything is just manifestation. Everything is equal. Yes, but there's also the relative world, the stuff we got to deal with every day, and it's stupid to confuse the two. Okay, so they're telling us right now, the prayer is saying, okay, however they seem, remain in a state of not grasping to them as real. What does that mean? It means keeping your perspective of whatever you're looking at, you're basically looking at your own stuff. You guys all know that. When you're angry at somebody, you're usually angry, you're up in arms over them. Okay? They're doing something you don't like. Or you're looking at something and I really want that. It's your own stuff. You're making up what you're looking at. You guys all know this, right? It's pretty basic Buddhism. And you play that game endlessly. In fact, if you would like to be a good Vajrayana practitioner, read this. However they seem, the people, the outer universe, remain in a state to not grasping them as real. It's your own stuff. You guys all know this. It is actually the alaya seed consciousness, constantly arising in awareness, which makes you see pixels on the TV or the computer screen. What do you see? You see Donald Trump. And you're either like, yeah, get him, Donald, or I hate your guts. He's just pixels on a screen. You say, but there is a Donald Trump. Is there? Have you ever seen Donald Trump? Yeah, I see him all the time on TV. But I mean, have you ever seen the physical Donald Trump? No, of course not. What do you think might be like if you saw the actual Donald Trump? We'd see some 72-year-old big guy with hair that you had all these emotional reactions to, that you identified as, I don't like that guy, or I like that guy. It'd just be some guy, fundamentally. The way one thing I like to say is, if I told you right now that 2,000 people died in a horrific volcanic eruption in my case, let's say in Washington, D.C., everybody would freak out. If you told them that 2,000 people died in an eruption in Pompeii in 27 B.C., you'd say, oh, that's interesting. Same number of people died. What's the difference? Somehow your mind interprets, makes a drama out of it. You look out and a car is missing. It's a big difference between if it's your car or somebody else's car, or just a car that you read about in a story. Each case a car is missing means something completely different. It's all just your stuff. You're making it up. Okay? I've got you 3 levels of analysis, which I wrote down here. Do this. The 2 of them are classic Buddhist things. You are all hot and lathered about stuff in your life and stuff out in the world and politics and all the plastic and the deep oceans and the homelessness and all this, and say, yeah, I guess so. In the story of our lives, of which, by the way, you yourself are just a TV character. It's stuff that you've made up out of your memories and your karmas and your stuff. You yourself have made yourself into a character in your own movie, okay? But how to deal with that? First level of analysis is impermanence. This is fundamental Buddhism. Everything is constantly changing. Nothing stays the same. At my age, I'm listening to these renegade historians, and I realize just patterns of energy. There's wars, and then there's not wars, and this political figure rises. This guy I was listening to this morning was talking about Donald Trump, our favorite guy, Donald Trump, and saying, actually, everybody's screaming at Donald Trump that this is unprecedented. He said, no, it's not. And he rounded about 3 or 4 different presidents in the passage of just what Donald Trump is doing. Andrew Jackson being one of them, Truman being another one. Where they just do these unconstitutional things. People go crazy. Okay? Impermanence. Everything changes. Everything's coming and going. And this is a meditation which you should practice every day in all your life and even every minute. Everything's changing. People at a certain age, when you have a little kid and their ice cream cone falls on the ground, they scream, they freak out. And we just say, oh, hell with it. Here's another ice cream cone. What are you so upset about? At a certain point in our life, we lose a car. The car, crashes. Oh, my God, how am I going to buy a new car? I can't afford a new car. 10 or 15 years later, it's okay. We get through it. It's not a big deal. I would love to be in the stage of this life. It's like, I'm going to die. It's like, great. That's one less thing I have to worry about. Fine. I'll die, and then I guess I will probably have to end up doing it again. Big deal. And there's a lot of us who can get that place. Okay. No big deal. Impermanence, the other classic analogy from Buddhism. And this is all teaching us how to remain in a state of not grasping after it as real. Lifelong practice. Second practice. Do you all know the classic Buddhist analogy that of the chariot In Buddha's day, it was a chariot. Now it'd be a car. We say, okay, there's a car. There's my car. Okay, what's car made out of? Well, it's made out of your wheels, made out of your engine. It's made out of the steering wheel. It's made out of the actual wheels. It's made out of the body. It's made out of the trunk. Okay, you pick up a part of that car, like the wheel of the car, and they say, where is the car? And you say, well, that's just the wheel of the car. So is the car inside this wheel? And you say, well, it's a part of the car. But they said, well, but yeah, but it's the wheel in the car. I mean, is the car in the wheel? You say, no, it's not. The car is not in the wheel. It's just a wheel. It has to be assembled with everything else to turn in the car. The Buddhists tell us right now, do this. Analyze everything, including your relationships. You're angry at somebody. You say, what are you angry about? Well, I'm angry because they said this to me. What did they say exactly? Well, they said this and this and this and this. Why did that bother you? Because of this and this and this and this. Analyze each part. What are you really angry at? Analyze every word. At a certain point, you'll analyze it down, or you don't like their hair. You'll analyze it down, you realize, what are you angry at? It's just a whole bunch of little parts. When they're all together, you're angry at it. But when it's all separate, you realize, what's the deal? You guys, if you have wise and good friends, they sit you down and say, just calm down now. Now, what are you upset about? And you said, and they said, well, but what about, okay, so, but what in that are you really upset about? And they get you to look at it objectively. Have you guys all done this? And you suddenly realize, oh, it's not such a big deal. And it is, So that's straying apart from the classic Buddhist analysis of there is no thing in that thing. It's always a collection of other parts. There isn't any reality except, as the Buddhists call it, a mere conceptual imputation. It's just your naming something. That's the only reality in it, really, because it's constantly changing and everything's made out of parts. The other critique. I may save it up for a discussion of hearing, because I want to mention, I'm going to save up the other critique, because I'm going to talk about, I want to mess with your minds. So we're going to blow our minds a little bit. So remind me to bring up the scientist when we talk about sound, the scientist that I asked you guys to watch. So the paragraph here, and the first part here is such freedom from duality. You realize, oh, that's my stuff, and I'm projecting it, to use the Jungian term, on that world out there. Not only that, but I'm projecting my opinions on my own inner states. I'm all upset. Why? Are you going to be upset if those states weren't, if those causes weren't there? No. So you're upset at the causes. Okay. But the causes, do they still exist? Not at this second. I'm just mad about them. Well, then why are you still upset about causes that no longer exist? Like, I crashed my car. Okay. I'm angry about the car. Okay. I'm still angry about the car. Okay. Are you going to be angry about the car for the rest of your life? No, but I'm angry now. Okay. Do you understand what I mean? In such freedom from duality, all things are seen as divine form, luminous and yet empty. Why do they use the term luminous? It refers to Shambhogya-kaya. The term for the Shambhogya-kaya enlightened mind is the shining clarity. Nothing is really there. It's all part of the quantum foam. It's just part of existence, the isness of everything. Just is what it is, what it is, what it is. It emerges, it appears in front of us, really as if by magic. The whole universe, to me, is like the night sky, or looking at the clouds in the sky. They're constantly shifting, they're coming and going, they're changing colors, they're changing shapes, they're evaporating, they're coming back into being. It's a luminous display. It's a luminous display. As the Tibetan yogis like to say, emaho. This stuff just shows up out of emptiness. I invoke the Guru naturally, free of desire and detachment. What you're looking at here is getting past your desire and detachment means you're grasping after things as real. Get over it. Free of desire and detachment. I invoke Orgampime Jundame. I invoke my inner Guru. I invoke the Guru of liberated awareness. I evoke the reality. And I just do it naturally. Because guess what? It isn't anything special. It's just what is. Enlightened mind is nothing extraordinary. It means actually waking up and seeing life, what everything is. And everything is, oh my God, I'm going to get going. Everything is actually a beautiful term for is suchness. You know, the Tathagata just means the arrived one, the one that's constantly present to reality without a lot of drama. It's just what it is. Next step, second meditation. Whatever sounds are heard through the ears, be they pleasant or annoying, hear them as sounds of emptiness and remain in that state without judgment. The biggest things that when we see things, they tend to exist right there. They don't, like right now, this thing is constantly changing, but it appears fixed. It's just an object in my object of view, okay? When they talk about sounds, the thing to me which is always amazing about sound is that suddenly we have time. When we hear things, when we gain information about when the world unfolds in our awareness in the form of sound, we're experiencing it in time. That makes sense? To me, it's very strange. You guys are listening to me now, and I'm going on and on. You are actually hearing me not in present time, but you're hearing me in a period of time. An example would be if you guys all watched that wonderful video with the scientists. Wendy did. I don't know if the rest of you guys did. I sent you a video. The scientist played that recording. Do you remember he played you a recording? Do you remember that little? He played this, and you listen, it was what was it? Then he played the same recording in normal time. And the guy was something, I am listening to this. Then when he went back and played the original recording, which has sounded like wah, 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 suddenly, remember, we all heard it that way. We all went, whoa. I also pointed out to you guys last week that I wrote something. I realized I wrote it, I wrote dog, and I held it up. At first, it's just marks on a paper, but we can't help but read a word into it. You guys can all hear me and understand what I'm saying without any effort at all. It just happens. So the sense of, when they say sound here, they mean how on earth we process this whole world in time. When I was a little kid, actually it wasn't a little kid, it was like, no, I take that back. When I was a little kid, I worried about this stuff all the time, but it was maybe about 10 years ago that somebody said something to me which just blew my mind. So they went like this. If we really did exist in now, like Eckhart Tolle tells us, you know, you are in the now, it's the eternal now. There isn't any past or future, it's all now. Okay, that sounds, okay, Buddhist, I like that, it's now. He said, what do you see? Well, I see you're waving your arm. I said, how do you see that? And you think to yourself, wait a minute, if I was only seeing in the now, the arm wouldn't move. Think about it. If I were only seeing in the now, the arm wouldn't move. If I was hearing in the now, You couldn't understand anything. You hear in time. If you think about it, you live your life in time. Little incidents. Right now we're in front of the computer. An hour from now we'll be doing something else. When we go here, whatever sounds are heard through the ears, be they pleasant or annoying, hear them as sounds of emptiness. What are they telling here is, first of all, when they mention pleasant and annoyance, the old idea that when we get information in time, we are liking what's going on or we don't like what's going on. Liking and disliking can only happen if we are comparing it with a subsequent or antecedent moment where we were happy or sadness. We only know how we are now by making up what it might be like. When we hear something like this, when the sounds are heard through the ears, be they pleasant or annoying. And first thing I'm pointing out that we hear sound in time. The second thing is we make up a story about it, or somehow we have an experience that it's nice or it's not nice. Hear them as sounds of emptiness. What do they want us to do? Okay. He's telling us our meditation is remain in a state without judgment. Here's your practice. Your existence is unfolding to you. First of all, realize that it makes no sense. How can I see the past, present, and future while I'm looking at something right now? If you start analyzing it, you realize your consciousness could not function in the now. Your consciousness is functioning, that cat just walked by. A memory of a past, an anticipated future, a fantasy of the future, and some imagined present. Because guess what? The present doesn't exist unless it's compared to the past and the future. It's somehow a dream. I'm leaping way ahead. So I can, right that moment, I felt I lost you a little bit. We're living in kind of this strange dream. They say here, without judgment. First of all, simplistically, I mean, don't make up your mind that whatever you're hearing, Donald Trump or whatever like this, you have an impulse to like it or dislike it, to make something out of it. Just stay there without judgment. Hear them as sounds of emptiness. While I was describing all that stuff, that this world, the way we think it, a sequence of moments, a sequence of present times, moments of time, now, can't exist. We somehow exist in a kind of consciousness that has a sense of what's going to happen and what's something that's happened in the past. It's similar to having a feeling that we're listening to something. All of that stuff is an illusion. Remain in that state without judgment. Remain as seeing all things as divine form. All those things are actually things that don't make sense if you really analyze them. Nevertheless, they appear luminously. Nevertheless, those sounds exist within emptiness. What are you hearing when we sit? Okay? I'm going to go, I hope I don't go over. If we really think about it, we're hearing waves in the air. That's what the scientists tell us. Waves in the air are making our eardrums vibrate. They make these the anvil, the stirrup, and the something, three little bones in the inner ear vibrate. Or actually, first of all, they make your hairs in your ear vibrate. Then they make the eardrum vibrate. Then they make the little anvil vibrate. They stimulate electrical impulses that go along a nerve that goes into some part of the brain, which somehow creates something called sound. What on earth is actually happening in the brain? It cannot possibly be pressure in the airwaves. You guys all get this? What's going on? It's emptiness. There's nothing going on. It's emptiness. Think about it. It can't possibly be the way we think it is. How could it possibly be like that? How on earth can you guys understand me? The biggest one, I'm tempted to bring it up now because I don't want to I'm going to save it for thoughts, which is the mind, to me, blows my mind. I'm going to save this one up. Remain in that state without judgment. That means it's not telling you not to experience pleasure. Whatever sounds are heard through the ears, be they pleasant or now annoying, hear them as sounds of emptiness. That means your whole illusion that you're living within, that you're hearing me talking to you, it's an illusion. Remain in a state without judgment. Okay, it's an illusion. That's the way it is. Okay. Quickly, the analogy that occurs to me about listening to sounds of emptiness, remain in that state without judgment. You go in and you see a colored light show. Because of our alaya conditioning as human beings, we see a movie. In the movie, you see a bunch of people, we're told, somehow actors and actresses are portraying these scenes. And there's a story somewhere. And in our consciousness, we make this elaborate storyline. We see Star Wars, or we see some nonsense like that. And we get, my guru writes about this, we get upset about it, no. If you walk out of the movie theater, if you're young or it's a particularly vivid dream, you're still upset about it. Most of it, walk out, think about the time you walk out of the movie theater. As soon as you get up and leave the movie theater, it starts evaporating. By the time you've reached the parking lot, it's gone. You guys, are you aware? Do you know what I'm talking about? You've seen a vivid movie? And it's like, while you're watching the movie, you're like, whoa. By the parking lot, it's gone. You're already like, should we get some food on the way home? What do you want to do? It's just gone. Remain in that state without judgment. Empty sounds of the Buddha's speech. Enlightened awareness is the sound of emptiness. It sounds like a Simon & Garfunkel sound. The sounds of emptiness. That's the Buddha's speech. This is the way existence happens. The dream is Buddha's speech. If we believe in it, we're no longer Buddhas. When we experience it, empty sounds of the Buddha's speech, beginningless and endless. When beginningless and endless means they exist in a time which really doesn't make any sense. I don't have the time to go into it, but I've done a lot of meditation on what time is. I'll give you a quick thing. What on earth makes us think that it goes in a chain, like a line? Time goes in a line? What? What is time? It's the Buddha's speech of sound and emptiness. I invoke Ogam Pembe Jinne. I invoke the Guru. My own enlightened awareness. I invoke that. I'm living in a dream. Okay. I'm going to enjoy it. Do you remember Buddha didn't disappear? He stuck around for a long time, did all this teaching and all that. He was enlightened. Enlightened people don't turn into balls of light. They have love affairs and kids, car crashes, get injured. They live lives. The dream, but they know it's a dream. How can you get upset about a dream? It's just a bad dream or a good dream. Whatever thoughts stir within the mind, whatever emotion-laden thoughts of the 5 poisons arise, don't alter the mind by retracing the past or anticipating the future. How do you meditate? Here's how you meditate. Whatever thoughts stir within the mind, whatever the emotion-laden thoughts of the 5 poisons arise, do not alter the mind by retracing the past or anticipating the future. The mind is, you guys all know, meditation 101 is the mind just generates thoughts. Alaya consciousness just manifests as thoughts. Your karma dictates the kinds of thoughts you have. You tend to have thoughts, I don't know what it's like to be a cat, but I don't think they think about my car. I think they have cat dreams. They have cat existences where they dream about what cats dream about. When we meditate here, the emotion-laden thoughts is the stuff that upsets us, you know, desire and anger, you remember, and pride, jealousy and envy, all those, you know, the Buddhists, there's millions of them. Okay. It's the stuff we're attached to that we have drama associated with. We all know this. This is Meditation 101. And we're taught in Meditation 101, the trick is let it go. You know, let it go. Trump. Trump's a dream. It's all a dream. If Trump had existed, and Trump did exist, we read it in a book, some history book. You know, the Emperor Caligula or some guy, you don't get, you think it's funny. You know, it's just, you know, including, if you want to, let the thoughts settle, the emotion-laden thoughts. You know, you can go on and get involved politically. You can get involved with the dream. Why not? Okay? Don't alter the mind by retracing the past or anticipating the future. This specifically is meditation instruction. You're in the story. When the thoughts come up, if you're in a state of awareness, these are my thoughts. Look at my eyes. Meditate like that. Meditate like that. Remain in a state of not. Don't alter the mind by retracing the past or anticipating the future. I was hearing about, I'm reading Patanjali's Yoga Sutras, which are genius. I've never read them carefully before. I'm reading a wonderful book about them. And they talk about, according to the yogis, the mind takes the shape of the thoughts that it's in right now. In other words, the mind itself, it's not like we have a brain. The mind isn't in the brain. I don't want to go there right now, but the mind's not, you know, it's the mind's something more subtle. Whatever the consciousness that we have takes the shape of the thoughts, especially the story that we're involved with. You have an angry mind, you're totally angry. So what they're telling us right now is, you know, don't alter, you know, means don't start thinking, when you do that, just drop it. Okay? When the thoughts settle naturally into themselves, what they mean is, now this is the Vajrayana teachings. And you guys all know Meditation 101 is if you have a fight with your consciousness, you just adopt all the different voices inside your heads. You say, I shouldn't be thinking about that. I should drop it. You know, because, you know, I want to be a good meditation student. So I'm called, all right, now I'm a good meditation student. Hey, what are you doing back here? Well, I think you ought to worry about this. You know, it's very typical. In fact, I'm listening to Jordan Peterson, who's one of my guys I listen to on the internet. And Jordan Peterson was talking about psychoanalysis the other day. And he says, the discovery of Freud and the psychoanalytic theory is that we're not one person. And I said, yeah, that's what the Buddhists say. He said, we're multiple personalities, all arguing within ourselves. And I said, yes, good statement about what we are. We're collections of all kinds of impulses and voices and opinions, all arguing. So it's telling that whenever we start making up the stories, retracing the past or anticipating the future, of course we know that the future doesn't exist. You're an idiot if you think it does. It's a fantasy. So is your past. Now some of you, and you know, you have my sincere, compassionate love. If you guys are still upset, and I am too, occasionally I'll sit in meditation, I'll have some bullshit from this job I was in. You know, the same crap comes up like a little movie, and I just look at it and say, oh God. And it's just like, brr. If you guys are still upset about so-and-so who did this to you when it's such and such, okay, do some meditation on that, some loving kindness on that, and just get over it because it doesn't exist. It's entirely your affair. Nobody did anything to you. They don't even exist. Only Buddha exists. Only your enlightened intelligence exists. You guys know this, so start living like that. Thoughts settle naturally into themselves. The liberation into the body of ultimate truth is obtained. What is the body of ultimate awareness? Excuse me. Yeah, ultimate truth. When thoughts settle naturally into themselves, it's just energy. Actually, your thoughts are no more significant than a burp or eating or defecating or just moving from room to room. They're just stuff that occurs. You make it into something. When they just a little satellite, like they go, oh no, okay. And then they come back down. They settle into the body of ultimate truth. What is ultimate truth? It's a Dharmakaya. They just go back into formless space. They just go back into the Alaya seed consciousness. It's part of your patterning and conditioning. You guys all know this. It's our stuff. By the way, one thing, it takes me a long time. I'm still angry at some of my stuff. Some of my stuff still bugs me. I'm still attached to it. But you guys know our process as spiritual beings, the way we're helping the whole world is, first of all, don't react to it as real. It's a luminous, what did they say? It's luminous and yet empty. It's all dreams. Okay? Your stuff, it settles into the body of ultimate truth. It doesn't mean it goes away, but suddenly it's just part of, it's like the sun and moon and the planets and the people and all the animals and the dinosaurs. It's okay. It's okay. I don't have to be so bent out of shape about it. You know, it's okay. And if I am bent out of shape about it, okay, that's just my stuff. You know, I was going to say, it's very hard for us to make friends with ourselves and others. Just forgive ourselves. It's like, okay. So we have these thoughts and feelings and all that. Okay, that's okay. That's just part of the manifestation. Liberation into the body of ultimate truth is obtained. Liberation into the body of ultimate truth. It's our liberation. As John Lennon used to say, it's all God, brother. Really, it's okay. I invoke the Guru of intrinsically liberated awareness. The Guru, what they mean by the intrinsically liberated awareness, all this stuff which manifests in us is spontaneously free. I'm watching the time very carefully. One of the things that means for me is that I am not in charge of this. There is no me. I can look into me and I hear little voices saying, you should be this, you know. All of this stuff, well, you guys all know, do the experiment about saying, try to anticipate, what am I going to be thinking about in a couple of minutes? First of all, you'll forget that you even asked the question. Second of all, you have no idea what you're going to be thinking about in 5 minutes. You certainly don't know what your life is going to be like, really, in a year or even 6 months. All of this stuff is just happening. Nobody's making it happen. It just happens. It's happening out of what the Buddhists call karma. What is karma? It's intrinsically liberated awareness. So by awareness, they actually hear is awareness not only means just be aware, but it also means this Dharmakaya field of consciousness. In fact, that's the $5 contemporary hit phrase for it. Be aware, be conscious. That's what it is. May grasping to what, let's say, I invoke the Guru of intrinsically liberated awareness. I invoke Orameg Pinmeg Jung. Okay. At the very beginning of the aspiration prayer to Samantabhadra, which is a spiritual classic, I'm going to try to paraphrase it. They say, I'm paraphrasing this. God, how can I phrase this? And I'm not going to try to find the book. Buddha, or primordially liberated awareness, expresses itself in one of two ways. Okay? I'm completely paraphrasing. Complete freedom. What do they say here? Beginningless and endless. What we'd call emptiness, fullness, complete freedom. It's just the space of awareness. Okay? The other one as story-bound, karma-bound, suffering, deluded consciousness. It's the same. It's two different. One is aware of itself as a limited, time-bound, suffering being. Okay? But it's also this timeless, completely free, completely pain-free awareness. Awareness doesn't quite capture it, but I just had the analogy I was going to use to it. I read, you guys have all read Urgen. What's his first name? He wrote As It Is. He's a great, great Dzogchen master. Tulku Urgen, thank you. Tulku Urgen. He phrased it, but it's classic Dzogchen teaching. What this is exists in three different ways. First of all, it's completely free, spacious, and empty. There's nothing really there. It's just a potential energy. The second thing is somehow it shows up as everything we're looking at. Consciousness, Satchitananda, shows up as everything we're looking at. It's clarity. It's the Shambhogakaya level. Everything is just manifesting. The Dharmakaya level is the pure potential energy, the isness, the fact that there is, that presence is here. Shambhogakaya is everything that shows up. The third thing is that it's self-aware. The third thing is it's self-aware. Those three aspects are the same. That's what it is. That is Orga Pime June. I invoke the Guru of intrinsically liberated awareness. I invoke Orga Pime June. My aspiration prayer now comes up. May grasping at what seems outer, it just seems outer. It's just us. This world, may it be purified. And when it's purified, we see it as Buddha sees it. What do I see? You just see, what I see is enlightened awareness. Everything I see here is something that's arising out of alaya seed consciousness, my own karmas. If I were a cat, I would see the world entirely differently. If I were some Buddha, I would see it like a Buddha does. It's just, may it be purified. May this vision be purified. May I see everything as Buddha realms. Enlightened awareness. May my fixation on what seems inner, the mind, may be liberated. There's no difference between inner and outer. You think to yourself, gee, I'm having all these thoughts. That's inside my mind, isn't it? Like in here. I've got 5 minutes so I can say this something. See if you can grok this. Anybody old enough to remember what that term grok means? Maybe Floyd. You do? Kevin, good for you. Stranger in a Strange Land. It was the book, the hippie book we read when we were all in high school. Grok is a cool word. It just means really getting it. Okay, if you really want to get it. Do you remember that we're taught in school, and we believe this, I do, sort of, sometimes. We figured, like, well, when we see a cat, how do we identify it as a cat? Well, the brain compares it to memories of previous experiences of cat. And it says, oh, that's a cat. All right, okay. And that makes sense. And then I think about it a little logically. I think, previous experiences of a cat. Cat, the brain is a picture, is a concept in my brain, right? And the scientists say, yes. And your brain knows what it is because of the neural storage in the neurons. They have patterns of cat. I said, how did they get into those neurons inside the brain? Well, your previous experience of the cat that's out there. I said, yeah, that's exactly it. How did what's out there, that cat, get through my thick skull into here? And the scientists say, what are you talking about? Your eye picks up visual images of the cat. Your ears hear the cat. You've touched the cat. All of those are sensual sensate fixations that get picked up by your senses, and they get compared to memories stored in the brain. And then the brain says, you're seeing a cat. And I said, yes, but how did my eyes, I was a little baby. How did I know it was a cat? And they said, well, I had no memories of cat when I first saw this cat in this life. And I didn't know what a cat felt like. Well, people told you about it. That's how you knew it was a cat. How did I understand the language? How did English suddenly, they said, well, it just happens. Oh. So yes, babies, it's well recorded. If a baby hears language around it, it will start learning the language. But if it's just electrical impulses in the brain, how does electrical impulses in the brain teach you the word and the concept of cat? How does that stuff, the world out here, get into my cranium, into the brain? You guys get it? Logically, it makes no sense. How does this happen? You guys all get that? Meditate on it. I have a lot. It doesn't make any sense. It's just like people saying time. Well, there's a past and a present and a future until you think about it, my friends. And then you think, if the future comes out of the present, or rather, no, the present comes out of the past, when does a moment stop being the past and turn into the present? And the future comes out of the present? How does the future, when does the present stop being present and or rather the future, when does the future stop being the future and turn into the present? They say, well, it's an ongoing flow. Well, what does that mean? How can there be a flow if everything's an eternal now? This, by the way, my friends, is not just my bullshit. It is my bullshit. It's called the Buddhist Madhyamaka, and it's a series of logical analysis that's taught in excruciating detail by, I hope I've got the right guy, as Nagarjuna. I'm pretty sure it's Nagarjuna. It's called the Madhyamaka, and it's logics, and it's designed to destroy your sense of reality. And it has effectively destroyed mine. I don't believe this stuff that I think. I don't. I know it's not true because I've thought about it. And I meditated on it. I am doing my best to my grasping on what seems out of the world. I want to purify it. Or I want to experience its innate purity because I am Buddha. I completely know that. May fixation on what seems inner the mind, may that be liberated. And may what lies in between clear light be self-aware. I asked my friend what this particular phrasing here, I didn't understand. What lies in between what? Clear light, be self-aware. My friend said the word for it is bardo, and they said the intermediate state. The intermediate state, according to the Tibetans, is, of course, this period between birth and birth, the so-called death state. I'm going to say the bardo right now is the dream state, between our dream states. And one way of us understanding the bardos is one moment of reality, me talking to you guys, cats, room. Next TV show is me maybe making some dinner. Next TV show is me doing my practices tonight. That's different programs. Okay? Different bardos. Every moment of thought, every time you tell yourself a story, it's a bardo. The space in between those bardos is when there's nothing going on except awareness, being aware of being aware. I'm going to tell you guys the real practice, and we've got 2 minutes here, is Rigpa. Rigpa, if you guys, anybody know that word, Rigpa? Floyd does. It's being aware of being aware of being aware. And I am, my studies right now is trying to, oh God, being aware of being aware of being aware means to have no discursive awareness, no sense of the I. I'll repeat that. Being aware of being aware of being aware means to have no discursive thoughts. You are not in samsara. To samsara, according to Urgen Rinpoche, you guys all know what samsara is nothing else than our discursive thoughts, which are nothing else than our deluded, believing in this deluded dream. As soon as you experience the dream as a dream as a dream, you experience clear light between the bardos. When you are with the clear light, you are actually, at that point, completely liberated. They say that because of our karmas, frequently sem returns. But I read this just yesterday about the Hindus say this. When you're in, the Hindus call it samadhi. When you're in a state of the samadhi, you're no longer in discursive, you're not in sem. You're actually Buddha. They said, even though we live out this life of dreams, which we frequently believe in, at the moment of actual death and the transitional state, so say Patanjali's Yoga Sutras, that state is recalled. And liberation into the body of ultimate truth is obtained, if that should be your goal. Unless you're a bodhisattva and you choose to re-enter the stream of all these impressions, all this drama, to work with the other dream beings. We're all dream beings. We're all dreaming. We're great, great divine beings pretending we're suffering little human beings. Does that make sense? It's the truth. We're all pretending to be little suffering beings with dramas. We make up some guy called Trump that we get mad at, or we love him. We make up our love affairs. All this is part of our dreams, 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 dreams. And as I said, the liberated ones among us, the high-level tulkus and the rinpoches and the lamas and all that, they still have ordinary lives. They don't turn into balls of light. But let's just say, I assume, they seem to have a much more joyous attitude about it. Okay? Not only that is, we at that point become genuinely of assistance to each other to have fun with the dream. Have fun with the dream. He says, Buddhas of the three times. I thought about this a lot. Buddhas of the three times means they're the dream. Past, present, and future is the dream. The Buddhas, the liberated awareness of the three times. Through their great compassion, may the minds of all beings, like me, I once translated this as, may the minds of all beings, like mine, be freed. But they mean like me. You see, all a being is, you guys, and all I am is a diluted wave. It's a form of this Buddha mind. We're all Buddhists, but we experience ourselves as individual human beings. In that sense, we're all exactly the same. May the minds of all beings like me be free. Okay, so I'm sure this is a very profound prayer, and of course Buddhism is a gigantic, my God, is that a wisdom tradition? It's not about belief. It's about experience. The beliefs are nonsense. They are to be treated as provisional understandings. That's all I have, provisional understandings. And we're praying to the enlightened awareness of the three times to further to deepen our understanding. So let me open it up, since it's a little after 6. Oh, I hope I recorded this. I hope I didn't screw up the... All right, unmute everybody. Okay.
Just wonder if stopping all this stuff a little bit slower.
Well,
Marion, I know, I'm going to go ahead because Marion's in the middle of her.
Oh, so it's just going to drag it out. Yeah.
What else? Who else?
Have you seen that? Sorry.
Yeah, so last Thursday.
Marion, you've got to, wait a minute, let me do this.
You can also mute yourself.
For a very long walk or a bike ride.
Right.
Well,
Social rhythms.
Marion, you got to mute
Yeah.
yourself. I don't know how to do it. There. Okay. Go ahead. Anybody else? Comments?
Jeff,
Floyd.
yeah,
I felt so guilty. I was telling to that Trump was just a figment of our imaginations. Floyd's always writing stuff about. And then I confess to Floyd that my form of I'll watch the pornography on the internet is I listen to all these like Noam Chomsky and these people,
Jeff.
Yes.
This is too much to absorb. And I can't get out of, I'm listening, and my mind wants to understand.
Floyd, who is asking that question?
Yeah.
No, I'm serious.
Yeah.
Who is it that has that? Who is that that's having that conversation? What is it that's having that conversation?
It's my discursive mind.
No. What is having the concept of discursive mind?
I don't know. I don't understand the question, Jeff.
Where is that taking place?
In me, somehow.
Where is you taking place? Where is it taking place? I invoke the Guru naturally, free of desire and attachment. I invoke the Guru of intrinsically liberated awareness. It's intrinsically liberated awareness. That's what you are. You're intrinsically liberated awareness. All of this that's who you are. And while we don't have that, you've had you know what this is, Floyd. You haven't recognized it. They say that all of us have the dream, something dissipates. The Guru of intrinsically liberated awareness. We know this. We've had these experiences. We've had these glimpses, but we don't recognize them. We don't recognize what they are. They pass by. In the story of the Tibetan Book of the Dead, we're told that there is a period after the death. So the Tibetans say there's a blackout period. If you guys recall the sequence, at that moment they said there is the dawning of the base luminosity, the pure Dharmakaya, without any discursive thought, without any stories, without any false identification, with no ego, none of that stuff. We simply see reality as it is. They say at that moment there is an opportunity for the child luminosity and the parent luminosity to recognize each other. And they say for a normal discursive being trapped in samsara, they say this moment passes so fast that we aren't fully, Elazar, I don't know how to make that work for you, Elazar. Oh, let's just see, Elazar. Oh yeah, you, let's see. Oh. I don't know how to do this. Elazar, let me see. How's that? Unmute all. Okay. At that moment, they say, an ordinary being, it's gone in a minute, and they're back in their fantasy land, and they're just going through the bardos, and they see these colored lights and all the stuff that they tell us the Tibetans do. They say, for we yogis, and we're all yogis, when we've experienced this in our meditation practice, we've experienced Rigpa. Oh, that's it. That's it. Hi, David. I just see a big word.
Hi there, Jeff.
Hi.
Can you?
Anybody else?
I have a question, Jeff.
Yes, who is this, David?
This is David.
Oh, hi, what's up?
In the morning after I meditate, I find it's much more easy and natural to be mindful and, for lack of a better word, to be in the moment. At the end of the day, I get very tired and find it very natural to slip into bad habits. Any thoughts on how to avoid slipping into those bad habits and be more mindful later in the day, especially when I'm tired?
I know exactly what you're saying. My evening meditation is rarely as focused in the evening. I notice also that I'm addicted to drinking coffee in the morning, even though I know that my early morning meditation, I meditate twice a day, it tends to, caffeine will foster random thoughts much more aggressively. At night when I'm tired, it's much harder to control my mind. And I also notice that when I wake up in the middle of the night, when I'm an old guy, so I wake up many times in the night, and not from worry, just wake up. It's like a big drag that I do. And I notice my mind is much weaker, a lot more discursive thoughts, a lot more and more difficult. I'm going to give you my meditation tip. I told this at the people beginning. The secret to me for meditation is something that Scott McBride, my teacher, emphasized. He said it's below the neck. Drop the sense of, you drop the bindu, which is the focus of awareness. Okay, drop it from the mind and see if you can find your body. Find something in your body. Having said that, a classic relaxation technique, if you're lying down horizontal, taking it out of the panic of the discursive thinking and dropping it into your body often will relax you and you'll go to sleep. Tip for sleepers. But I'm going to suggest, you asked, I'm going to give you some other tip, is I personally find it's much harder for me to meditate when I'm sitting in a chair, especially if I'm sitting right now in a chair I'm a little relaxed in my back. It's much harder. If we can, that old technique, it's a yoga posture. Sit upright, and at the very beginning of Buddhism, and actually certain forms of schools of Buddhism like Zen, they say enlightened mind is the posture. You can maintain your mindfulness and your alertness a little bit more by maintaining the posture. When we get involved with the discursive thoughts, and I know you're not talking about meditation, I know you're talking about just everyday life that you get kind of involved with it, but we practice this in meditation. But when we stay upright like that, and we stay focused on the posture, it's a little easier to avoid discursive thoughts. As we work through the day, and I think you're talking more about towards the end of the day when we're a little tired, okay, and we get involved with discursive thinking, and it's a little difficult to be mindful. I've gotten lots of teaching about the classic mindfulness techniques, which I think are techniques or practice, and they tell you, for example, to pay a lot of attention to when you're drinking from the cup, and to pay attention when you're turning the doorknob, and to pay attention when you're walking. As a very advanced practitioner I heard burst out laughing about it, he says, I don't want to pay attention to the doorknob. I don't want to pay attention to walking. I just go to the other room and do what I'm going to do. We can get carried away with getting after ourselves and nagging ourselves about pay attention. Right. Don't let yourself wander. I think what I pay more attention to is my storytelling.
Right.
I pay attention to when the world disappears and I'm lost in whatever I'm doing. And I am no saint. I sit and watch my stupid YouTube lectures on history or Buddhism. You want to know something? Reading a Buddhist book, it's not that different than reading a novel. It's just giving you a bunch of great stuff. Like the Buddhist, I have so many Buddhist books, I don't even read them anymore. They have great covers, like Praise of the Goddess. What's that?
Sounds sexy.
It sounds sexy. Goddesses, hey. And
I'm joking.
it's good. And you read about it, it's just more gook. I mean, to a certain extent, gook is really good because it helps you structure your experience. It helps you interpret your experiences. Like, what the hell is going on? Like what we're talking about now, the classic teachings on mindfulness. And I helped you. I hope I made fun of them a little bit and just let you know that they're just techniques. They're skillful means. And I, for example, am fairly absent-minded. What I do is I just have workarounds. I usually do things almost immediately when they need to be done, if I can, because I'll forget about them otherwise. And
Right.
the other thing is, and I told you about what can you do. Coffee and everything gets in the way. It's natural to get sleepy at the end of the day. Posture, posture, posture. And the other thing is here is, I'm going to give you one last tip, okay? This is a little far-fetched. I find devotion helps a lot. You guys know that? The secret to spiritual practice, even to be a great jnani. Floyd and I are Jnani yogis, which means we're interested in understanding this stuff and reading about it and parsing it out. Devotion is the secret. It's not just about, I think it would be cool to be Guru Rinpoche. It's about being devoted to either saving all sentient beings or be devoted to Tara, compassionate, fearlessness of Tara, supplicating your Yidam deities, like a Floyd, passionate concern for things, devotion. In other words, you're sitting there like typically, most of us are like, it's like, what? Devotion sharpens us up and makes us paying attention.
So, for example, would reciting the Padmasambhava mantra later when you caught yourself, would you find that helpful as a means to effectuate that devotion?
Who do you have a natural attraction, or do you have an initiation with Padmasambhava?
Natural attraction.
Is this the guy for you?
Not sure.
You're not sure. Hang out with him. Think about him. See how much he grows into him. I'm a goddess guy. For me, I'm always talking about mom and dad. Dad, as I told you guys last time, to me is guru sometimes like this. But as I think God is just. And not only that, it's a little embarrassing. I refer to people as gods or goddesses, especially, or goddesses or mom or something. Sometimes people don't know what is this, My guru taught us, for example, how can you improve your relationships with others is a version of the namaste. It just means find their enlightened energy in others. Find that these are Buddhas. These are enlightened creatures. They're divine creatures. As the prayer says, all things are seen as divine forms. They're luminous and yet empty. That just means everything's a Buddha field, but also individuals. Another individual has a consciousness as complex as your own. It's just like everybody's a universe with all of these loves and hates and passions and intelligence and all these experiences. Sometimes I walk around like, you see some guy that you judge harshly, the guy came in my mind would be a geeky guy with a white shirt and his pencils in his pocket and he's designing missile systems or something. You say, oh God, what a jerk. It's like, how on earth did he manifest being a jerk? How did that come about? How did he learn to wear the shirt, wear the pencils? How did that come about? The manifestation of the infinite Lord. The infinite God did that.
So,
That makes sense?
hi, I'm Chris.
Hi, I haven't seen you in ages, Chris.
Yes, I live in Connecticut now, but it's good to be here, and it's good to hear you all talking again. I've met many of you before. I used to live near Philadelphia. And
Are you still a Buddhist, Chris? It strikes me you would do something else by now.
No, for now at least, I've been practicing with Willa Miller in the Natural Dharma Fellowship. A lot of, and I'm actually, we were doing Sutra Mahamudra and
Oh, good.
and Nundros now too. Anyway, all this is to say, I love this prayer, and I recite it often, and I think of it often, and I'm glad that the conversation now has taken the directions it did. In my experience, this prayer is one that brings together all of these, intellectual constructs and classifications that I know about, but it's one that brings together this, that uses those frames, but one that has devotion aspect and the natural awareness, the rigpa aspect, are right here, right together, and it is the most succinct experiential. It's not the most. It is a very nice experiential-minded, coming together of rigpa and of devotion, and I found this to be incredibly helpful.
Rigpa and devotion is the same thing in yoga.
Yeah.
It's synonymous. What are you really devoted? What is the guru? The guru is intrinsically liberated awareness. That's what the guru is. What else would it be? A guy or a woman floating around, Tara floating around space someplace that you pray to, and she sends you her kindly energies down through space into your brain? No, it's intrinsically liberated awareness.
But if you're using that, if you're working with the energy of a deity, if you're working with that can be a way of accessing the same non-dual experience that you would get from doing Mahamudra or from doing Dzogchen or any of many other practices.
It's why the Shambhogyakaya, the spontaneous clarity aspects of things, the Buddha can exist in that form.
And I also yes, definitely. And I really liked the way that you talked about it. I think that was some of the, about Sambhogakaya in particular. If you are a person for whom devotion is confusing or does not come easily, I just wanted to jump in to recommend John McCransky teaches a thing called benefactor practice. He is not the only one, but he is its sort of principal exponent. And it is a no prerequisites reframing of Guru Yoga, actually, but in a very broadened capacity that I think that is very much the way Lama Losang talks about the Guru, of beings that we know, as well as of spiritual beings and other things, but of focusing in on the aspect of that relationship through which we can do the stuff that this prayer is about.
There's a line from one of the teachings, be grateful to everyone.
My recommendation. You can Google it pretty quickly.
What is it?
It's called benefactor practice, and it's a family of meditations that you can find quite easily. I have more recommendations you could find by email.
Benefit or factor, maybe we can send it around in emails, but I just know, I think it's the Way of the Bodhisattva, the Shantideva Classic. I think that's it. Or maybe it's the Tonglen practice. It's just basically you be grateful to everyone. And it's a fantastic practice.
Jeff, Chris mentioned the Losang, and that brings to mind, I have difficulty with devotion. I can't feel devotion to Tara, to Manjushri, and any of the others, because for me they have no reality. But Losang, I have a great deal of devotion to him, because he is a living example of the way I want to be. He's, his kindness, his joyfulness is something that's a reality. On the other hand, I've become very much devoted to Shakyamuni Buddha from my studying the Four Noble Truths and the Heart Sutra recently. I really dedicated myself to those texts, and this was somebody who I can I can appreciate what he's done for me as well as for uncounted billions of people.
Mm-hmm.
Not so much with the Yidams, not so much, but it's easy for me to become devoted to a being whose reality I can grasp.
Well, one of the controversial issues around a guru is whether you need a living guru or not. And it's very controversial. They talk about it on the internet, especially as so many gurus get involved with scandals and things, people get upset. I mean, people who are gurus for others. I think a living guru is very, very important. And to develop a relationship with a Yidam deity is very complicated and difficult. Guys, I have to go. So,
Thank you.
yes, thank you guys.
Thank
It's
you.
wonderful.
Never again. And I
Thank you.
hope I recorded. Take care, you guys. Good luck.
Bye.